What's up, guys? Welcome back to the MSR Workshop. So I've had a really busy summer and I apologize for not posting lately, but I've got a great video for you today. So if you've ever been in the market to buy a laser, whether it be a CO2 laser or a diode laser, and I'm sure you've wondered, should I buy one with air assist or add air assist? So I'm going to make that answer easy for you, and the answer is definitely yes. But the next question you're going to wonder is, should I buy one with, say, the Aquarium style pump, or should I upgrade and buy one with something fancier that has maybe an air compressor on it? That's what we're going to look at today, so stick around. So the laser that we're going to be talking about today is the Monport K40. And if any of you looked at K40s on the market, you will know that K40s do not come with an air assist. Now you can add that as an upgrade, as an aftermarket part, which most people do. But we're going to talk about the types of air assist and what it looks like not to use air assist. Even with a diode laser, I highly recommend it, but I'm just going to show you what it looks like not to use air assist. And then we'll jump in and do a deep dive on what the differences and types of air assist that you can use on your laser. So the first part of this test is I'm just going to show you what it looks like to not have any air assist whatsoever. So on light burn, I am just going to draw or type the word test. Let's frame that out. Okay, so as you can see, it did not cut through any of that, and it should have. As far as scorching, you saw how much smoke this produced. Now I have a really good smoke extraction on this, but this whole garage would be full of smoke if I didn't have that there. So next we are going to try the exact same test. We are going to be using the Aquarium style pump air compressor. Now this is a air assist that came with my large 80 watt laser, which I have since swapped out, but you can see how this does and what type of cuts I can get from this. So I'm going to hook this up really quick and I'll be right back. Test number 2, this is with the Aquarium style air assist. See if these cut through. No, it didn't, and actually looks like it's got a little bit more charring on it compared to the first one. But let's try this again with the air compressor. Test number 3 with 30 psi on the air compressor. So let's take a look at that third one. As you can see, there is virtually, I don't think there's any burning. I still didn't cut through, but you can start to see the outlines of some. So it's definitely doing a better job. But let's do this whole test again, because I did adjust one power setting from here to here. This was no air assist. This is actually the aquarium pump air assist, and what I did is I switched it to constant power mode. So that made a difference in the cut. So let's redo the test with constant power mode on all of them, and I'm going to slow down my millimeters a second to about 7 millimeters a second, and I was running at 10, and try that again. All right, that was quite a bit more dramatic. And as you can see, there was some flame up. I caught some fire. And we are almost through on these. In fact, I can probably push that one out. But my pieces are pretty toast. Test number 2 again. This is with the aquarium pump. Almost looks the same, but all of my letters are coming out, and the back side looks quite a bit better. I mean, this doesn't look bad, but of course it didn't cut through all of these. This, it looks like it cut through everything. Let's take a look at some of these letters. Really not too bad, but there's quite a bit of charring up here. Let's jump to the air compressor. And see what a difference that can make, and see if we can get some letters that actually look good. Test number 3, this is with the air compressor at 30 psi. That made a huge difference. And every one of these should come out. No charring on the top. Every one of these should pop out with no problem. Absolutely no charring on the back side. And the edges look great. Just a little X-Acto knife, you could pop all of these out. And you have some great looking letters. So they say the proof is in the pudding, and air compressor is definitely the way to go. The aquarium pump really didn't look like it did much at all. I mean, it did help it cut through these a lot better, but I still have quite a bit of charring up here. Down here, I don't even think you'd need sanding on the top of those. All right, guys, we're gonna have a little fun. We're gonna see how thick of a piece of material you can really cut with an air compressor. Now, what do I mean by cutting? A lot of these diode laser manufacturers will advertise that it can cut through 22 millimeters. Well, the fine print means they may have taken 20 or 30 passes. When I say you can cut through something, I want to see what it can cut through in a single pass. If I'm having to take multiple passes, a lot of times it leaves charring behind, and most of the time, most of that stuff is not usable. I want to see if it can cut through something thick in a single high-powered pass and what it can do. This is a piece of hard maple, and it's 5/8 of an inch thick. This is pretty darn thick, and this is only a 40-watt CO2 laser. Don't know if it can do it. I don't think it can, but we're going to try it anyways and see what kind of results we get. I'm going to try and cut out a little circle. I'm going to start at 60% power at 3 millimeters a second, and we are going to see if we can do this. All right, guys, moment of truth. Did it do it? Not even close. How deep did it go? I don't know. Let's cut off the side and see how deep it gets. All right, we're going to try one more time. We're going to cut a square this time, and we're going to go down to 2 millimeters a second. Really not as deep as I would have thought, but granted, we are cutting in hard maple. Let's try some softer wood and see. So I found a piece of pine. Now this is actually 3/4, so this is thicker, but it's a lot softer than that hard maple. So just out of curiosity, let's see what this can do. Now, one thing I need to do is make sure that my focal is right, and I think we're right about there. So let's just cut that same square and see what it can do. Let's try and cut it in the middle of the wood, and then if we need to, we'll cut it off to the side. Would you look at that? We got close to going through. Let's cut off the side here and kind of take a look. It did almost cut through. Look at that. Boy. 3/4 inch thick pine. Let's bump that down to 1 millimeter a second just for fun. See if we get a change. Let's try this actually at 0.5 millimeters a second. See what we can get. All right, so that is done. So let's take a look at this. Before I even lift this up, I want you to notice this is 0.5 millimeters a second at 60% power, and there is 0 charring on a piece of pine. Now, that is just a testament right there on how good an air compressor air assist works. If it was the little pump, that would be charred up. So the real moment of truth is, did it cut through? Oh, look at that. It did right here. Let's give that a little push and see. Nope, that did not cut through. but it did right here. Just on the grain direction change, it did not. But that is a 3/4 inch piece of pine, 60% power at 0.5 millimeters a second. That is crazy. So let's try this. This is a 1/2 inch piece of cherry. It's a little bit softer, but we are going to go down to 40% power, and let's try 7 passes at 40% just to see if we can get through. Oh, all right, we got through. I think one more pass on that, we would have done better. So that is 40% power with 7 passes, and that is at 10 millimeters a second. Now, there is quite a bit of charring on here, but it seems to only be surface charring. And that's probably something, if you needed something this thick, could be cleaned up. So in theory, 1/2 inch cherry with a few extra passes, you can cut. But one thing I'd like to point out is the top and the bottom, there is still no charring. Let's try spelling something real quick. Alright guys, well this looks like it cut through without even moving it. Yeah. So just popping these through. And of course the letters are a bit charred. But if you weren't using the actual cutout letters and you were needing just the insides for something, then this actually would work quite well. Because as you'll notice, there's really no charring. The top looks nice. Went over that with just a tiny piece of sandpaper and get rid of any of the little marks that's left over. But you are cutting through 1/2 inch cherry on only a 40-watt laser. And even the letters did stay together. So I would think that is a win in my book at only 35% power. Well guys, let's talk about our results. So our 3/4 inch pine, did it cut through? No, but it got very, very close. But I had to go up really high on the power of my laser. Jumping down to something a little bit thinner, this is 1/2 inch cherry, I was able to cut through. Now I don't like to do multiple passes on stuff because I feel like it slows me down, but if you do multiple passes at a faster millimeters a second, so like we were doing 10, it really didn't take that long. This whole test right here, this test took about 3 minutes, so not a terrible amount of time. It will cut through in a single pass. You do have to bump it up really high and then you get quite a bit of charring. But overall, the air compressor style air assist is really what we were testing here today. The results speak for themselves, even though I was cutting at extremely high powers and I was getting charring on the insides of my pieces of work. The tops and around the edges were still remaining virtually untouched. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, be sure and leave them below. My last question for you is, why would you want to use this type of air assist? What are the advantages? Well, as you saw, less charring. The second one is, in theory, you can use less power, which causes less amount of charring, and still get through the same thickness of material, sometimes even thicker. Well, less power means less wear and tear on your machine, which means that laser tube is going to last that much longer. Because the higher and the more power that you run through that laser tube, the faster it degrades the lifespan of that tube. Most manufacturers will put in the description of their lasers how long each power setting will make that tube last. So say 0 to 20% power, you have X amount of hours that it's going to run. If you run 30% to 50%, say, it's going to run X amount of power, and then obviously 50 to 100%. It's going to drop the lifespan of that tube down substantially. So that's why most people don't use the full potential of their lasers, running it up to full power. Say in this case, we're not running it up to 100%, which would be equivalent to 40 watts. We were still getting great results at lower power. And most materials that you're going to cut, say this 1/8 inch MDF, most 3mm, 5mm plywood is going to cut fantastic on this machine, and you're not going to get any charring, and you're going to get great lettering. But if you want to know more about this Monport K40, please be sure and visit the link below. And I have got a 10% off discount code, which is Adam10. That will get you 10% off your laser or any accessories that they carry. Until my next video, guys, thanks again.